Today, I'm going to go over my first impressions, thoughts on these two 5090s. So I know you guys have been waiting for my 5090 content for a while, and I just ended up picking up this Zotac base model a few days ago. So we will be doing the majority of all the overclocking, power modding, water blocking, all that good content. We will be doing it on this card. So even though I have had the Founders Edition for about a month now, maybe even 2 months, I'm not really too sure, I didn't want to make content on it specifically because the Founders Edition card is very unique in multiple ways in terms of its market viability, its size, its user friendliness when trying to dismantle it, its water block ability, etc. So for the longest time, I was kind of caught between a rock and a hard place because I refused to pay for a premium model 5090. You guys know this channel, law of the cheapest model, baby. Unfortunately, the law of the cheapest model this generation happened to be a card where if you take it apart to water block it, never mind the actual difficulty of doing that, you basically eliminate your entire resale value after the fact. Never mind the resale value as well, but these cards, the 5000 series, they don't have the hotspot temp sensor anymore as well. So when you try to re-liquid metal the stock cooler back together after the fact, it's very difficult to tell if you did a good job or not because there's no hotspot sensor. The other problem with it was also the angled connector. I kind of had an idea similar to what Linus did on his 5090, where he actually chopped off the connector and soldered wires directly to the pins. I was thinking of actually soldering another connector on the card, but I couldn't actually find a way to buy an angled one. But you can find straight ones to solder on any electronics store. So TLDR, the Founders Edition 5090 was always a card where I said, this one you just don't touch it. I know that was kind of a long story, but man, when you're spending this much money on, dude, this one was $4,000 Canadian. It's supposed to be an MSRP model, but we get bent over, you know how it is. And this one was $3,500. So on this table, I spent 7,500 Canadian dollars. These were not samples. I bought this with my own money. Speaking of which, this content was brought to you by the supporters of the channel and the PC optimization class and the store. Go to framechasers.org and go buy some shit. So you can see how when you're spending near the damn cost of a used Honda Civic or Corolla, like a vehicle, I'm gonna be careful in how I approach the content, okay? If I blow these things up, there's no second chances for me. Now, when it comes to the actual price of these cards, how quickly they come in stock, and how quickly they sell out, there is a little bit of a concern there with how the 6090 or the 6000 series, how that's gonna go down. I have a lot of thoughts on that, but we'll save that for a live stream, 12 p.m. Pacific time every Saturday, twitch.tv/framechasers, kick.com/framechasers, and youtube.com/techonomicspodcast. So then what are we doing today? We're going to do a pros and cons in comparison between these two cards. I can't afford to buy any more of them, but at least I can do these two. So anyone else that searches this up, they can get the information they need. Now, obviously, the first thing, we don't need to talk about it too much, is going to be the size of the cards. The Founders Edition is going to be the smallest, thinnest, shortest one that you can get out of the entire stack, right? Now, the Zotac card is massive. She is big and heavy, dude. She is almost as big and heavy as your mom. We'll throw these in the test bench and check the temperatures in a second because theoretically, the Zotac should run a lot cooler and quieter just from a sheer mass perspective. Now, why did I pick the Zotac specifically out of all the other base model ones? Well, because thankfully I saw them all at CES, so I kind of made an informed decision back then, and this is kind of the one that looked the nicest to me based on the base model versions, which would be like the Windforce, the Tough, and the Ventus. Now, I'm talking purely aesthetic-wise, right? Whether it performs better or worse than those other base model ones, I have no idea. I just love the aesthetic design that Zotac went with this generation. This one and their Amp Extreme Infinity or with Mirror, whatever, that they have on this side. All their cards look great this gen. By the way, I will leave affiliate links to both of these cards down below. Use those affiliate links to support the channel and help me pay for the $7,500 that I spent on these two cards. Now, the other reason I chose the Zotac was because usually Zotac cards are the first ones to the market with water blocks available for them, because the Zotac ones usually share the same PCB with Chinese variants, and then those guys over there usually get water blocks out very quickly, which I have one on order for this card as we speak. So make sure you subscribe, because when I actually get the water block, you're not going to want to miss to see if it actually is worth water blocking these monstrosity of cards. Now let's talk about performance for a second. There's no point in doing benchmarks. You guys have probably already seen 100 videos on benchmarks on these things. I'm more talking about, like, practically speaking as a gamer, but these things are fast, man. Like, they're ridiculous. Now, the speed that you get out of these cards is going to be completely contingent on the monitor that you're running. Now, for me personally, I run 1330p 480 hertz. For those of you that don't know what that is, it's just the 25-inch mode on a 27-inch screen. Now, for me, in all of the games that I play that are esports-esque in 1330p 480 hertz, it's very difficult for me to max out a 4090 at that resolution and refresh rate. So going from a 4090 to a 5090 on my esports machine, I basically saw no difference at all. In fact, it's actually worse because the drivers for the 5000 series are still horrendously broken. Man, I've been troubleshooting the 5000 series handshake driver problem for like a month and a half for my entire Discord and for streamers alike. I'm actually starting to think it might be a design flaw with the 5000 series, because usually an issue like that on the driver level, I've never, well, in my entire time being a tech enthusiast, I've never seen NVIDIA take this long to fix a problem on the driver. That's just a theory of mine. I don't know specifically, but there really shouldn't be handshake problems this long into the life cycle of the 5000 series. But back on topic though, if you are running a 4K 240Hz screen and your jam is AAA single player games, yeah, this gives an experience unlike anything else. Or if you're running some expensive ass VR goggles, say goodbye to all your motion sickness dip problems with this thing. Now let's talk about power draw and temperature for a second, and then we'll go see how hot these cards get upstairs. But I will tell you though that the 5090 is the first true 600 watt card. Like, you know how the 4090 was 600 watts? It was actually quite difficult to get them to pull that much power unless you were going out of your way and trying to do it. There just weren't enough SMs on that card, and the clock speed was not high enough to actually consistently pull 600 watts. These cards though, they pull 600 watts without you even trying. So you'll see in a second when we actually thermal probe the 16-pin connectors, but it's not rocket science why all the connectors are melting on these things. Now, it's hard for me to like explain it to you guys so you can conceptualize what a real 600 watts is, but like after like 15-20 minutes, the room temperature of like your gaming room, it actually starts going up and you're sweating balls, man. Like, that shit is a no joke. If you're using these cards in the summer and you don't have central air conditioning or something like that, you're in for a hard time. Undervolting is going to be your best friend there. So at first, I'm like, yeah, I'm going to power mod the card. We're going to run a Mora on that thing. We're going to pull 1,000 watts. But man, after having gaming on it at 600 watts and me already sweating balls and having a huge swass while just playing, I'm kind of thinking like, maybe I'll just undervolt it and not power mod it, because I can't imagine how much hotter the room would get with an extra even 200 watts of power draw. I mean, I still will for the lulz and for the content, but the average person is totally unnecessary. Let's actually go plug these things in and let me show you what I'm talking about. All right, so we got the 5090 Founders Edition in first. So we've been looping Heaven now for about 5 minutes, and the Founders Edition's running at 77 Celsius. Memories at... She runs hot, man. Like, she really does. I mean, it's a 2-slot card, and it's pulling 525 watts, right? Maximum power draw that we've seen, 540 watts on the Founders Edition, right? And Heaven Benchmark is a really light load. This thing's from like 2009 or something. It's a really light load for modern day graphics cards. So the fact that it's pulling 530 watts on average in a benchmark from 2009 should tell you something. We left all the settings stock, and the fan speed is almost 50%. And the audio... About 53 decibels, yeah. I mean, it's pretty loud, man. Like, the fact that this is a 2-slot card and is actually doing that is an incredible feat by itself. But as I said before this thing even launched, you gotta kind of consider this like a RTX undervolt card or a workstation card. Now, the cable is warm, but it's not hot. So I would say I would have no concern with this the way it's running right now. And if we take a look at the thermal camera here, hottest spot that we see is 70 on those fins, and the connector here, max temp 64. So right on the inside there on that connector, 64. So we're good with the temperature. Like, I would be okay running this thing all day long. But you got to remember, in this circumstance, there's no glass on the case. There's airflow everywhere. It's kind of like an open test bench. So if you got like a hot box case, you might run into problems here if you're pulling, I mean, 550 watts and there's no airflow in the case, right? Okay, we got the Zotac in here now, and it's been about 6 minutes on the same test. Yeah, it's running 4 degrees cooler-ish, right? And max power draw, see, max. It's about 20 watts worse. So it's a bit lower of a bin than the Founders Edition. But the memory junction temperature is also running like 14 Celsius cooler. Noise levels are about the same anyway. So because the Founders Edition uses liquid metal, despite the card actually being smaller and running hotter, most of the heat is going into the heat pipes, right? Because this is using whatever conventional paste it's using. It runs overall cooler, but man, the back plate here, I can't even leave my finger on it because it would actually burn me. Like, it's bad. Like, it's like, so maybe a liquid metal mod would do wonders for this card of some sort. But yeah, so the connector here is of concern on this model, especially because we're doing an open test bench here, right? Now, here's the major problem that I noticed with this Zotac card. So even though the core is running cooler itself, the heat soak into the rest of the card is very, very concerning. So right here, all right, the connector itself is at 80 Celsius. That's really bad. So it just goes to show you there's more than a couple of variables when actually buying a 5090. Yeah, that one runs hotter, this one runs cooler, but that one actually runs safer, which is odd, right? Now, what I think also is going on here, if I put my finger here, I can feel all the hot air coming out of the fins here, kind of blowing directly on the cables, right? If you come over here, there's no airflow or fan anywhere, or any hot air anywhere near the port on the Founders Edition, right? So there's just like, I'm not sure if all cards do this, but there are ways to kind of mitigate that and fix it, but just something to be aware of if you are buying an AIB model and not a Founders Edition. Now, talking about all 5090s, not just these two, no matter which 5090 you pick, you're going to encounter some kind of design compromise. Even the very, very most expensive, highest end ones have something quote unquote wrong with them. Not wrong, just not optimal. But in terms of these two cards, though, again, there's the perspective of if I was just a gamer and if I was a tech content creator, right? So if I was just a gamer, probably you, the viewer, right? Obviously, I would try and get the Founders Edition. It's significantly cheaper now because of the whole tariff situation. Much less risk on that 16-pin connector. And it's going to have the highest resale value later on to AI farms and workstation users because it's a 2-slot, right? And if it runs too loud for you, you can just undervolt it and reduce the power. So the best overall 5090 for like 90% of people is going to be the Founders Edition. So with that being said, why did I get the Zotac one? Because it's just easier for me to do content with it for the channel. That's the only reason. Because it's actually a good thing that this card runs so hot on this connector. So in a future video, I'm going to show you guys all the different ways that you can kind of DIY fix the problem of the melting connector. Make sure you subscribe because that's going to be some premium pro tip content to protect your investment. And then also, it's much less risky for me to water block this one, and it's also much less risky for me to take it apart and just start soldering stuff on it without having to worry about putting it back together in pieces with liquid metal. So I'm kind of like protecting the investment of this one by mutilating this one in the future, right? Again, I would not be doing that if I wasn't a tech tuber. And then also going forward, as Intel and AMD kind of come out with graphics cards of their own, or if there's new kind of DLSS features or anything I need to test, I'm going to be using this one kind of like for benchmarking and testing and stuff, right? This one is just for modding funsies, and then obviously if you mod a card to shit, it's not fair to be benchmarking a modded powerhouse against stock cards. So there you go, my thoughts on the 5090, some pros and cons between the cards, and some future forecasting of what you can expect on the channel. But don't forget, these cards costed me 7,500 Canadian dollars. So if you like content like this, go support the channel at framechasers.org, become a supporter, get access to the Discord, where everyone in the Discord is not a weirdo, no dick measuring whatsoever, and all information in there is 100% factual. If the community thing isn't your vibe, go pick up a bundle on the shop, go pick up a RAM kit, or go to the PC optimization masterclass if you want to learn how to overclock these cards, framechasers.org/education. You guys already know if you're watching this, you're not going to find this content anywhere else on YouTube. Stay tuned for the next one, because shit's about to get real. Talk to you later. Also, thanks to Marky in the community here for getting me the Founders Edition from Best Buy America, because I wouldn't be able to get one myself.